What is up, Dynasty Leaguers? Welcome into the second video of this 12-part series running through the 101 through the 112 of a one quarterback 2021 rookie draft. And today's video on the 1.02 is going to be my RB2 in this class behind 101 Najee Harris. If you missed that video, please go back and check that one out as well too. But today's video is going to be on my 1.02. That's Clemson's running back Travis Etienne. Let's get it going. So Travis Etienne is my RB2 in this 2021 rookie class, and I think that's kind of a surprise to a lot of people in one way or another. Either some people have been watching Travis Etienne, they have seen what he's done over the past couple of years as well too. He was basically heralded as potentially the RB1 in last year's draft class as well, but he decided to return for his senior season, and this is kind of where that other group comes in, where they saw what he did last year. He was kind of underwhelming, kind of disappointed. There's a lot of other things that can be nitpicked about Travis Etienne's game, specifically whenever you compare it to Najee Harris. They have different strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of people are kind of down on Travis Etienne. I've been seeing him being ranked anywhere from RB3 or lower. Some people have him significantly below other wide receivers in this class in the overall rankings, and definitely not at 1.02 for some people. But for me, he's my 1.02. He's pretty clear to me, and a lot of people might argue, well, what about Jamar Chase in this spot at 1.02? We'll get to him here very soon, but just the way that I like to build out my dynasty rosters and the way I like to approach a rookie draft, I'm always looking for those rookie running backs, because those are the ones who are going to give more immediate production, even though we've been seeing a wave of really good rookie wide receiver production over the past couple years. You know, you think of Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, all those guys like that. But I'm still trusting in those rookie running backs for instant production. And so that is where Travis Etienne now comes into play as my 1.02. So when you look at Etienne and you look at his stat line and his college career at Clemson, very similar to Najee Harris. You know, his freshman year wasn't all that fantastic. He had 107 rush attempts, 766 yards, and 13 rushing touchdowns. Now, he did split the backfield evenly, literally 50-50, with Tavian Feaster as well too, who also had 107 rush attempts. And then, similar to Najee Harris, the quarterback, Kelly Bryant, led the team in rush attempts with 192 rush attempts in 2017 for Clemson, just like Jalen Hurts did back when Najee Harris was a freshman. So not really all too much out of Travis Etienne in his freshman year, but that's all right. He's a freshman. He's 18 years old, first year in college. You know, just let him come in, get acclimated to it. Then you look forward to his sophomore year. His sophomore year was his big, giant breakout year. He nearly doubled in his rushing stats and rushing attempts, 204 attempts, 1,658 yards, and 24 rushing touchdowns in 15 games. Those were some monster numbers. Really put Etienne on the map as a true elite college running back. His biggest problem in his sophomore year, though, was he only totaled 12 receptions, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. Wasn't really the numbers that we want to see, and it was actually at this point, right after the 2018 season, before the 2019 season, so in between his sophomore and junior year, where he was actually quoted by Greg Brandt. He's a writer and a member of DevyWatch, DevyWatch.com. If you don't know, go check it out for sure. It's a fantastic website where these guys know all of these players like back in their high school days. It's insane, the knowledge that all these guys have about Devy players. So I would definitely go check them out. But Greg had an interview with Travis Etienne, and he asked him about working on becoming a better pass catcher. That wasn't really an element of Etienne's game that we had seen. So he asked Etienne about it, and Etienne said, quote, "I don't know. I feel nervous, I guess, because the ball is coming, and I always feel like the defender is right there. So I run before I catch the ball and get spooked by my surroundings." And so it's an interesting quote, and that really kind of brought up a lot of issues and red flags when it came to Travis Etienne's ball catching ability, because it wasn't natural. It wasn't something that he's very talented at or comes easy to him. You know, when you think about like guys like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, a bunch of all these 3-down backs, workhorses, where the pass catching ability just comes so easy to them. That's not Travis Etienne, and it was much more of a Leonard Fournette type of stat line that we've been seeing, or a Jonathan Taylor, where they had all of these rushing yards and rush attempts, and they were very good running the ball and with the ball in their hands, but the pass catching was something that was really lacking. So that was kind of the biggest element of his game that he really needed to improve on and bump him up to becoming an elite running back before he entered the NFL draft for fantasy football. So enter his junior year, 2019 season. Again, basically the same on the ground, 207 attempts, 1,614 rushing yards, and 19 rushing touchdowns. But this is where the real big difference was. His receiving totals went to 37 receptions, 432 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So that was a monumental jump. Basically increased his reception total and receiving production 3 times. And that was really what you wanted to see out of Travis Etienne. The receptions and the way he catches the ball isn't necessarily still as fluid and as easy for him, but at least he got the volume. He was working on that part of the game. You could tell that he is and that he was, and that was really what contributed to increasing his reception total 3 times from his sophomore to his junior season. So that stat line alone, like I said, similar to Najee Harris, would have propped him up to being a top running back in the 2020 class as well too. But instead, he decided to go back for his senior year, try to win another championship. Unfortunately, they did not do that. They failed. Alabama is significantly better. It's really insane. But when you look at Travis Etienne's senior season stats, this was really the biggest difference between him and Najee Harris, where I mentioned about Najee Harris really benefiting from his senior season with how amazing his stat line was, averaging 2 rushing touchdowns per game, really increased his reception output as well too. Etienne was a lot less efficient on the ground in only 12 games because of COVID and stuff, but still played 12 games, 168 attempts, 914 rushing yards. So that was a significant drop. He was averaging 5.4 yards per carry in 2020 versus 8.1 and 7.8 in 2018 and 2019, and then 14 rushing touchdowns. So still has that nose for the end zone, but the efficiency just wasn't there for Travis Etienne on the ground. On the receiving game, though, he increased his production even more. 48 receptions for 588 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. That was an average of 4 receptions per game, which was greater than his just over 2 receptions per game. Even the year before, when he was already increasing his reception output, he still only averaged about 2 receptions per game. Whereas in 2020, he bumped that all the way up. He doubled that to 4 receptions per game. So that is really the key and the biggest strength that Travis Etienne brought in his senior season, and what really proved to me that going back was at least an okay decision and didn't totally tank his entire value. And thankfully he didn't get injured, or else we'd be having a completely different conversation about Travis Etienne right now. So when you're looking at Travis Etienne from an analytical standpoint, this is going to be the same type of process and analysis that I used with Najee Harris, where I'm looking for 8 markers from running back prospects. You can go check out the Najee Harris video. I basically talked about that at more length than I'm going to right now, but just as a refresher, or maybe this is the first video that you're watching, the 8 markers that I'm looking for out of running back prospects is for them to hit thresholds in weight, BMI, draft capital, 40-yard dash, speed score, a best reception season, a freshman or sophomore production season, and yards per carry, over 6 yards per carry in college. I'll get into more of the markers and stuff of what I'm looking for when we're looking at Travis Etienne's profile. But when you look at his profile, you'll see actually Najee Harris is down a little bit lower. He's at a 3. Travis Etienne actually hits on 4 of those markers right now. And a reminder, we're looking for 8 markers. So he is 50% of the way there, and we're missing 3 of those markers already that we don't have data yet for. We don't have draft capital. We don't have 40-yard dash. We don't have speed score off of that 40-yard dash because the combine hasn't happened, won't happen. So we're waiting for his pro day to kind of get an official 40-yard dash number. But when you're looking at his 4 markers that he does hit on weight, although it's very close. He's at 205 right now. At least that's what Sports Reference lists him as, at 205. But as long as he clears 200, he's solid. He's also hit on best reception season over 25, I'm looking for a single season over 25 receptions, and he hit that twice, just like Najee Harris in his last 2 seasons, 48, and then the year prior as well too with 37. And then he also hit, not like Najee Harris, he hit on a best yards from scrimmage over 1,000 yards in his freshman or sophomore year. Remember, he had that breakout 2018 season in his sophomore year, 1,736 total yards that year. And then also, finally, he has hit on 7.22 yards per carry, which is greater than 6. So those are the 4 markers that he has hit on right now. The 3 that he's lacking: draft capital. I'm looking for a first or second round pick in draft capital. We expect him to hit that. He probably won't be a first round pick. I don't think that the NFL is really looking at running backs in that same light that we've seen just a few years prior. Najee Harris might end up being the only running back taken in the first, if he is even taken in the first. But I expect Travis Etienne, similar to like all the running backs that we saw last year in 2020, being taken in that early or mid second round. So he will hit on draft capital for a marker, bringing him up to 5. The second one that I'm looking for that he is missing is 40-yard dash. And I just need him to clear 4.6, which everything that film people and film analysis is telling me is that he's going to actually clear 4.4. That's how much of a burner that he is. He has that long speed that Najee Harris doesn't have. One of the fastest runners in this draft class. That's really where Travis Etienne excels, at getting into open space and just straight out outrunning everybody. He's going to be able to run at least a 4.4, if not a sub 4.4 as well too. So he'll clear that. That'll be a 6 out of 8 markers. And then finally, speed score. I'm looking for a plus 100 speed score or better. And I did the math. He actually needs to clear 4.5 to run a 100 speed score at his current 205 weight. That could fluctuate a little bit, but as long as basically he clears 4.5, he'll be at that 100 speed score level. And if, like I said, if he's clearing 4.4s, he's definitely got that for sure. So he's at a 7 out of 8 markers that I'm looking for right now. The only one that he is lacking in is actually BMI. He's at 29.4. I have my marker set at 29.75, so he's barely missing that, just like Najee Harris. I'm really looking for guys in their 30s, although I dropped it down to 29.75 to kind of clear that like rounding a little bit, just in the higher 29s. So similar to Najee Harris, who's at a 29.5, Etienne is at a 29.4, but that could definitely fluctuate based on his actual numbers in height and weight, as opposed to what is listed right now. He's listed as a 70 and a 205 height, so 5'10", 205 weight. That could definitely change his BMI if he's a little bit taller and weighs a little bit more, or if he's at the same weight and is a little bit shorter as well too. That will bump up his BMI and get him to a 30 BMI that I'm looking for. So that would get him all the way to an 8 out of 8 on the markers that I'm looking for, and he would join a very select group of running backs if he were to accomplish that. I ran through all the running backs in the Najee Harris video. That class includes players like Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Mixon, Marshawn Lynch. Like, it's a very elite class to be 8 out of 8 on their markers, and since 2005, only 8 running backs have hit that. It would also be really good for him to hit 7 out of 8 markers, which is very likely that he is going to do, even before the NFL draft potentially, but definitely after he gets first or second round draft capital. Being in that 7 out of 8 tier is also very solid. He would join guys like Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Cam Akers, Maurice Jones-Drew. Like, it's also a very good class as well too, and almost as select as the 8 out of 8 markers. So Travis Etienne definitely has the analytical profile, along with his college production, that really showcases a top and elite running back. And that's why he is my RB2. I'm not really nitpicking him as much as a lot of other people are. And they might have actual concerns and real red flags for Travis Etienne. And when you compare him to other running backs like Harris or like a Javonte Williams, that he might lack in. But I think he has a lot of other strengths and definitely could fit with a very good team to becoming a stud elite running back for fantasy football in the NFL. So speaking of teams that he could be drafted by, I have pulled 4 teams, 3 of which are the same as Najee Harris. You know, we kind of have a group of teams that are kind of running back needy right now, between the Dolphins, who pick at 118 and 236. If they decide to go the Etienne route instead of the Najee Harris route, then that would definitely bump Travis Etienne up as well too, and give him the solidified workload and opportunity necessary to be an elite fantasy running back with the Miami Dolphins. The Pittsburgh Steelers as well too, kind of the same situation, and the Atlanta Falcons. Those are the same three teams that I picked for Najee Harris as well too. Like I said, it's just kind of a group of teams that are kind of running back heavy, that if any of these guys were to go to, we're looking pretty good in terms of landing spot for these players. The final team that I'm going to mention is the San Francisco 49ers, who have an early pick. They picked 12th overall in the first round, but I'm really looking at is that second round pick. They have that early second round pick as well too, the 43rd overall, and that's kind of in that range that we saw, Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins and Cam Akers and DeAndre Swift. They kind of were in that 30s to 40s range, and that's where I think Travis Etienne could actually end up. And if you're talking about him landing on the San Francisco 49ers, who are all about speed, Raheem Mostert is one of the fastest players in the league, Jerick McKinnon, Tevin Coleman, all these guys are burners as well too. Raheem Mostert, if you're thinking about Raheem Mostert and Travis Etienne, they're very similar in terms of speed. Etienne is a much more upgraded player than Raheem Mostert, can definitely catch the ball out of the backfield, do whatever Kyle Shanahan needs him to do, and we know that offense and that running back positional group is valuable for fantasy football, because last year it was basically plug and play whoever the starter was that year just because of injuries. If it was Raheem Mostert, if it was Jerick McKinnon, if it was Tevin Coleman, if it was Jeff Wilson, if it was JaMychal Hasty, just plug in whoever that is in your fantasy lineup and they're going to score you fantasy points. So if you put now Travis Etienne, who would be the highest draft capital player on that team, and you just give him 200 plus carries and another 50 targets in his rookie year, you're going to have a stud running back, if not an RB1, definitely an RB2 for sure with the San Francisco 49ers in that Kyle Shanahan offense. And so I definitely think that would be a fantastic landing spot for Etienne to end up in. So that's going to conclude the video for me on Travis Etienne, my 1.02. Like I said in the introduction, if you missed the video on Najee Harris, my 101, you can definitely go check that one out. And we will be continuing to pump these out, going from 103 to the 112. My 103 might surprise some people, and I might get some flack for it, but I'm really here to just kind of give you guys some alternate thinkings and some different processes in how you evaluate and rank these players moving forward. But a lot could change between now and the end of the NFL draft, so we would definitely have you guys covered here at DLF. So be sure to subscribe, ring that notifications bell. Every time that we drop a video, you will be notified, whether it's more of these videos for the rookie drafts, or if it's any other videos, instant reactions like the Carson Wentz trade to the Indianapolis Colts, everything and anything just like that, you will be notified. So with that all being said, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.